Shalom and welcome back to Israel with Aline. Today we're going to the border with the Gaza Strip to visit Kibbutz Nir-Oz, the site of the October 7th massacre. We're going to see with our own eyes what really happened in this place. Walk through the streets, enter the houses where this tragedy happened, including also in the Bibas family's house. So, if you're ready, let's get started. We're already on the road now. The trip from Jerusalem to the border with Gaza takes 2 hours, and we're here with Moti. Shalom! Thank you so much for coming along. Thank you so much for going all the way there. So guys, let's start the journey because today is really going to be a very tough day. And we can see that we're heading into a conflict zone because both behind us and in front of us we're seeing military vehicles. And the sign already shows us the way to Nir-Oz, this community whose name means the field of courage. We're entering Nir-Oz, and as you can see, there's a military checkpoint here. The entry of civilians has been prohibited since October 7th, and the local population was evacuated by the government. We received special permission to be able to film here for you today, and it's really going to be very difficult for us to film this place, but it will also be hard to watch. That's why we want to tell you this before we start showing the destruction. Please keep in mind that today's topic is really difficult to watch and follow. And the person who will be with us today, showing us everything as it really happened, is Irit, who lived here in the kibbutz and was here on the day of the attack with her daughter. Well, we've arrived in Nir-Oz. The first thing we received here was the vests. They were bulletproof vests. Irit gave them to us. And we also received instructions in case Seva Adam happens. Seva Adam are the sirens that go off here in the region if Hamas launches missiles from the Gaza Strip towards here. We have exactly 7 seconds to find a safe place, so we were given instructions on how this works in case it happens. Yesterday there were sirens here. Today there haven't been any yet. I hope it doesn't happen. But now we're really going to start the visit to the kibbutz, to the site of the massacre on October 7th. Right here at the entrance, the first thing we can already see is destruction, and Irit is going to help us understand a little more about what really happened here. Look here at the complete destruction of this place. It's hard to imagine that just over 3 months ago people lived here. This was people's lives. But now we're going to go up to understand exactly where we are. Look where we are. Back there, the houses we're seeing. Those are already part of the Gaza Strip. We are 1.6 kilometers from the Gaza Strip, and the people who attacked, massacred, and destroyed this kibbutz came from there on the terrible Saturday of October 7th.
That morning, we were 417 people in the kibbutz, including babies and children, elderly people. 117 people were either assaulted or murdered. So it's 1 out of 4 that was
either kidnapped or murdered. And in the short time we've been here, we've already heard several explosions and we're hearing helicopters and army planes. This really is still an active conflict zone. And that's why this area is also empty. I mean, the population hasn't returned to this kibbutz yet, nor to the kibbutzim around here. But we're not at the lookout now. This here was the roof of a house belonging to a man named Amitai. Right below us was the bunker of his house, and here we can see where the house itself used to be. Let's go down now and enter what's left of Amitai's house and find out what happened to him and to the people who stayed in this house. Here, where we just came down from, was the bunker of the house, and here where I'm walking was this gentleman's house. It's really hard to believe that this used to be a cheerful house, full of life. Amitai lived here, this gentleman, and also a Filipino named Jimmy who took care of him. And on that terrible Saturday, Amitai was murdered here inside his own house, and Jimmy was kidnapped and taken into the Gaza Strip. Thank God, Jimmy was released after more than 50 days of torture and captivity in the hands of Hamas. But I want to show you, everyone, the ruins of the house. One of the few things left here is Amitai's walker. He was an elderly man, he had Parkinson's, and that's exactly why he had the help of this Filipino caregiver. And one of the few things left here, I can see another thing, a plate. A fork on the floor, a piece of a bottle, and here we can see the walker. Now we're going to enter our first bunker of the day, and we can see that it's completely burned. Here on the floor as well, look, the medications. I mean, this man also had fragile health. We can see his medications on the floor. He was murdered on October 7th, but many of the kidnapped people are elderly. There are people over 80 years old, more than 100 days in the hands of Hamas, and many of them have health problems. We don't know their health condition. We don't know many of the kidnapped, if they are still alive. They were taken from the houses here in the kibbutz. 1/3 of all the kidnapped were taken from here in Nir-Oz, a community of approximately 400 people that was practically wiped out. But let's go out and start learning about the history of Nir-Oz from the beginning and find out how we got to this very, very tragic day. Before talking about all the destruction, about everything terrible that happened in this place, I want to start the story in 1955, when there were only 4 trees in this place. It was a deserted area in the middle of nowhere. And some people decided to come here and found a kibbutz, to build a little paradise, a small Garden of Eden in the middle of the desert. And I can tell you that they succeeded. Despite all the destruction that happened here, we can still see the beauty this place once had. And I can also say firsthand that I knew the beauty of this place before all of this happened, because my father, Jorge, whom you know from the channel, my father lived here in Nir-Oz in 1970. He lived and worked here in the kibbutz, and some time ago, he and his friends from 1970 decided to come back here to revisit the kibbutz. I came, I walked around here with them, we sat down, we ate in the cafeteria, we strolled through the kibbutz. We saw the beautiful life that people created here, despite all the difficulties. So the story of Nir-Oz doesn't start with the massacre The story of Nir-Oz begins with people who had a dream, the dream of creating a little paradise here in the middle of the desert, of making the desert bloom just like the Bible says. And just so you can get an idea of these people's determination, they created a botanical garden here, one of the 14 botanical gardens in Israel, which was right here in the middle of the desert. And they also did research to find out which plants could adapt to this climate, not just to make their kibbutz flourish, but the whole region and the whole world. The idea was to help bring agriculture to the desert. And these people who built and lived in this place with so much love in their hearts suffered unimaginable things. And it becomes so real to come here because everywhere we go, we see the marks of destruction and of life and the lives of the people who were here. We can see here at the door the family that lived in this place. They were all kidnapped. The father Ofer with his children, Shachar, who was 16 years old, and Erez, who was only 12. The children were released during the ceasefire, but they spent more than 50 days in the hands of Hamas terrorists. But the father is still being held hostage, and the grandmother and cousin of these children were murdered on October 7th. And here we can see what the lives of the people who they played soccer like any other child who lived here. We can even see that the ball is from Brazil. I mean, people who were simply here, who just wanted to live their lives and whose lives were completely interrupted and destroyed. The attacks on Nir-Oz and the region didn't start on October 7th, they started much earlier. In 2005, Israel carried out a unilateral withdrawal from Gaza, which means that Israel removed all Israeli civilians and military personnel from inside Gaza. And the following year, in 2006, Hamas gained strength, power, and control over the entire Gaza Strip, and then they began attacking Israel, especially the southern region. For example, in 2008, a rocket launched from inside the Gaza Strip landed in Nir-Oz at the paint factory here in the kibbutz, killing 1 person and injuring 4 others. Also in 2013, the exit of a tunnel was discovered here next to the kibbutz. Hamas invested millions and millions of dollars in building hundreds of tunnels. Tunnels inside the Gaza Strip, tunnels from the Gaza Strip to Egypt, and also tunnels from the Gaza Strip to Israel. And this tunnel, thank God, was discovered before it could be used, because even then, Hamas already intended to use this tunnel to infiltrate terrorists to attack Israel. So in 2013, the worst didn't happen, but it ended up happening now in 2023. And I want to show you what's here on our side. What we're seeing is one of the thousands of rockets that Hamas launched. And it's part of these attacks that have been happening for many years now. Imagine people are here going about their daily lives. Then it starts, Tseva Adom, Tseva Adom, Tseva Adom. That's how the siren sounds here. And people have 7 seconds to find a safe place, and then the rockets start to fall. We can see this rocket, a very simple rocket, made inside the Gaza Strip itself by Hamas terrorists. And that's why, since they have so little time to protect themselves, a lot of money has been invested here in building bunkers and bomb shelters. And we're going to talk more about these shelters because they're part of the tragedy of October 7th. And right here next to us, we see another house completely burned and destroyed. The person who lived here was Oded. You can see his photo here. Oded was also kidnapped. He's an elderly man, and he's still in the hands of Hamas. Now we're going to go inside to see what's left, the little that's left of his house. And in the midst of so much destruction, I want to tell you a little about Oded's life. He was a journalist, but more than that, he was a peace activist. Yes, he lived next to Gaza, and he was part of pro-peace organizations. He was part of an organization that brought sick Palestinians to receive medical treatment in Israeli hospitals. And it's incredible to think that someone who, for more than 80 years, fought for peace and sought peace with his Palestinian neighbors ended up being kidnapped, tortured, his whole life destroyed. Here we can see a little bit of what his life was like. We can see what's left of a piano. He was a musician too, so we can see part of his life here. But we can also remember the death that happened in this place, in so many places here. On the ground, there's a black bag. I want you to see it. This bag we're seeing here belongs to Zaka. And I really have to take my hat off to them because, in my opinion, they're doing the hardest work since October 7th. Zaka is an organization that travels to all the places where the massacre happened, where all this death and destruction took place, and their job is to recover the bodies so that these people can first be identified and then have a proper burial. Just because people ended their lives in such a painful and inhumane way doesn't mean they shouldn't receive dignity, their final dignity. What we can do for these people is really give them a burial, because then the families also have a place to go and mourn their loved ones. This here is one of the bags they use to carry the bodies or the remains of the bodies.
The text, Disaster Victim Identification, is written in Hebrew.
Identification of disaster victims. So they go through all the places here and gather the bodies to take them for identification, burned people, and that's their job. Personally, that's what they do. They went to the beaches of Zikim. Zikim is one of the places where my father also lived. On the beach of Zikim, they went there with sieves to sift the sand, to find teeth, to find what was really left of people and really try to give them that dignity. And Hamas knows how important this is to the people of Israel. And that's why when they killed so many people in Nir-Oz in so many places, one of the things they did was take the bodies. They kidnapped many people alive, but they also took dead people. Just imagine. How inhuman do you have to be to not let the family mourn their dead, so that these families keep suffering, not only because of the death of their loved one, but also knowing how the bodies of these people are being treated. They have been for more than 100 days in Gaza, both the living people and the dead people, as well as those who were killed in captivity. And that's why the work of Zaka is so important. But if we are seeing here just a small proof of the horror that happened on October 7th, Zaka saw the horror from the very first moment, and really they saw everything we can imagine as the worst. They saw it. Nir-Oz is a kibbutz, which means it's an agricultural community and they have a communal life. Most of the people who lived in this kibbutz were Jewish, and we can also see that through this tabernacle that's right in front of us. And here we can really see the remains of this sukkah, this tabernacle. Remember that the massacre happened one day after the end of the biblical Feast of Tabernacles. This feast commemorates the 40 years that the people of Israel spent wandering in the desert. The end of slavery in Egypt, the freedom of the people of Israel. And once again, at the moment when the people were happy, joyful, celebrating, All of this happened, and we can see here how life was interrupted. Something that will probably shock you about October 7th, and that also shocked me, is what happened after the massacre. How did that day unfold? On Saturday morning, the terrorists entered from the Gaza Strip into Israel and went into the communities here in Nir-Oz, Be'eri, in the Kibbutzim, in the communities. Around the Gaza Strip, and they started to kill, rape, and kidnap people, decimating the communities. And after the terrorists began to return to the Gaza Strip, civilians from inside Gaza started to enter Israel. Not to help the Israeli population, but to start looting. If you start looking at the kibbutz, where we're walking, there are a lot of random things scattered around the streets. The civilian population, including minors and women, came in here and started looting things from the houses. Here we can see a television that they took out of the house with the intention of taking it home, and for some reason, maybe it was too heavy, they couldn't carry it, or it broke along the way. They left it here. So first they killed, kidnapped, raped, and then came here and started looting things from all the houses. Erita will also tell us what happened in her house.
Meantime, they emptied the house. Like all other houses, not only did they steal from all the houses, all the money, bills, computers, bicycles, all our shoes, all the motorcycles, all the cars were destroyed, broken, or stolen. Many of them were burned. They stole TVs and all the kitchen appliances. Even the mousetraps were stolen from my house. Everything they could get their hands on. Mousetraps, obviously.
After they stole the things, they set many houses on fire.
We have more than 60% of the houses that are completely burned down. We were in a safe room. I was there for 12 hours and there was no water, food, or bathroom. Just in our pajamas for so many hours. Now, not only did the Palestinians kill and abduct people, they stole and broke into the houses. They also destroyed the entire water system so that we would not be able to drink or put out the fire. We found out that they threw grenades into the water system and the pipes just to destroy them. So, when we went out at 6 in the evening, my daughter and I were walking through the kibbutz and we saw huge walls of water. The kibbutz was breaking apart, and the next day at 5:40 in the afternoon, the buses came here when it was safe enough. They thought they could get us out alive. 3 buses came and took all of us to Aline. We evacuated to Aline.
Wow, there's still a strong smell here. On that terrible Saturday, a lot of things happened. The first one we've already talked about, it was the massacre itself. The people who were killed, injured, raped, kidnapped. Then the population comes in and loots the kibbutz. And the last wave in the kibbutz was the wave of destruction. This place here was intentionally burned. They came, did everything they did to the people, stole everything they could carry with their own hands and in the cars, and then they burn it. What they do in many places is they cut the gas pipes and then use a lighter to set the places on fire. There was no one else here when this place was burned. They burned it simply because they wanted to destroy it, so that if these people had survived by any chance, they wouldn't have a place to come back to. Look at the level of inhumanity. They wanted to take away everything these people had, and that's why they deliberately burned this place. They also burned the kibbutz's cars. More than 260 cars were burned here. And what is believed is that they burned the cars so that these people couldn't escape, couldn't get out of here. And really, people stayed here all Saturday. They were only rescued on Sunday, so they could only leave then. For these people, it wasn't just a matter of 1 or 2 hours. They spent more than 24 hours in this suffering until they were taken away. And when the state of Israel arrived and evacuated them, they were taken to the city of Eilat, the southernmost city in Israel. They stayed there for a while in hotels, and then Israel transferred them to Kiryat Gat, where they remain to this day. As you can see, the kibbutz is empty. There are a few people who are still here and managed to return to their homes, but the vast majority of the population is in Kiryat Gat. And the Israeli government estimates that it will take 3 years before they can return here. Why? First, this is not an active military zone. It's not for nothing that I'm here wearing a bulletproof vest. It's not for nothing that you can hear the explosions, the planes, the helicopters. This is not an active military zone. So first, we have to pray for the end of the conflict and for the return of peace. And then we'll have to come here and rebuild the whole community. The houses will have to be demolished and rebuilt. It's going to be a gigantic, gigantic, gigantic job. And the last step is for the families to come back here. And the question is whether the families will want to or be able to return, the families that are left from the kibbutz. The question is whether they are able to return to the same place where they suffered this massacre. And in a little while, we're also going to ask Irit if she would like to come back, if she would be able to come back here. But I just wanted to show you all this inhumanity of wanting to destroy what they couldn't steal so that these people would have nothing, nothing, nothing left in their hands. City in Brazil, redheads that we're seeing here. Maybe you already know which house we're arriving at. The house you see in the background belongs to the Bibas family, one of the families kidnapped in Gaza so far. Come with me. When the terrorists arrive here, they try to break down the front door of the house. We can see the bullet marks. Look here. They attempt to break down the door unsuccessfully. And then what do? They climb onto this same couch and come in through the window. We can also see more bullet marks by the window. They come into the house, and the first thing they do is kill the family dog. They didn't spare anyone, folks, no one here, not even the animals. Many dogs, many pets were killed here. So they come in through the window and kill the family dog. And the family was inside the bunker. They tried to stay locked inside the bunker but couldn't. The terrorists managed to get into the bunker, and they first took Yabden, who was 34 years old. They took him and told him he was being kidnapped, that he was going to Gaza, but that they wouldn't take his family. And we know very well how this story ends. I mean, lies after lies after lies. After they kidnapped him, other terrorists came here and also took Shiri Bibas, who was 32 years old. And the two children, Ariel Bibas, who was 4 years old, and Kfir, who was 9 months old when he was kidnapped. We can see here, written in Hebrew, 9 months, and later they crossed it out and wrote 10 months, and now it says he is 1 year old. It says here, Ben Shana, that he is 1 year old. That means he was kidnapped at 9 months old and spent his first birthday in captivity in the hands of Hamas, and no one knows what happened to them. We have the terrible images of the family's kidnapping. The images show Shire's desperation, the desperation of the family that was taken. We also have images that I can't show you because they are very graphic, but there are images of Yarden being taken, also wounded. He was shot, he was injured. We know that the whole family was kidnapped and taken to Gaza, and to this day they have not been returned, and we don't know where they are, and I get very emotional here. Because I have small children, I have a 2-year-old son and a 2-month-old son, so I can see them as part of our family too. The people of Israel, all of us, we treat each other as if we were one big family. So when people ask, why do we talk so much about the kidnapped? Why do we talk so much about what happened? It's because it's as if it were our own family. And this hurts all the people of Israel, both those who live here and those who are part of the people of Israel spread around the world. And of course, it always hurts more when it happens to someone close to us. Just imagine the situation here in this kibbutz in Nir-Oz. A quarter of the entire population of Nir-Oz was either murdered or kidnapped, in addition to all the others who were injured and traumatized. Imagine that in your own lives. Imagine if one day you woke up and 1 out of every 4 people in your family and 1 out of every 4 of your friends was either murdered or kidnapped, tortured, raped. Everything that really happened is a trauma for this community and for all the people of Israel. But I really can't imagine what it is like for Irid and what the people here in the kibbutz who live here feel. Because as someone who lives in Jerusalem who came here, it really hurts a lot. I can relate to many things with them, including when I was arriving here. I saw this little bicycle. It's exactly the same. It's the same model that my son has. So when you see it here, you can really see the humanity of these people and the inhumanity that the Hamas terrorists have. They don't spare even animals, children, or babies in arms. I mean, Hamas doesn't respect anyone or anything, anyone at all. They don't see value in human life. Not the people of Israel, not the foreigners who were here. Filipinos, Thais, Danes, there were people from other countries here too, Christians here. They didn't show respect for Jews, for Christians, for animals, and unfortunately not even for their own Palestinian people. We see how many Palestinians are suffering at the hands of Hamas. So it's really a lack of humanity, a lack of love for others. If the Bible tells us that the most important thing is to love your neighbor as yourself, there isn't even the slightest bit of love for others in the hearts of these terrorists. Here we see the names of the people who were killed here at Kibbutz Nir-Oz, and we can see that all their names are in Hebrew. And suddenly we come over here to the side and we see names written in English. All these people who were killed here were Thai, and some of them were even Christians. On October 7th, when the terrorists entered the kibbutz and started the massacre, the Thai people started to identify themselves and say, "We are not Israelis, we are Thai." Yes, 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 you are Thai, and they killed them. We have to understand that this conflict is not a conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. Far from it. It is a conflict between the civilized world and terror that kills indiscriminately. Jews, Christians, and also Muslims were killed on October 7th. Not here in Nir-Oz, but in Sderot. Muslims were also kidnapped. So we have to understand that this is a much bigger fight, the fight against terrorism. And terror starts here against the people of Israel and then spreads to the whole world. It will also reach the West. It will reach every country. And that's why we have to understand that this is a fight for all of us. Us as Brazilians, us as Portuguese, us as Israelis, us as the entire Western world that does not accept this kind of violence, that does not accept this kind of extremist imposition. I get emotional because I know this place. I mean, I've been here. Right now we're in the dining hall, just so you know, we're in the Kibbutz dining hall. I was in this dining hall some time ago with my father when we came to visit this place. He came here with his friends. I mean, his childhood friends came to visit the Kibbutz, to see the house they used to live in, which still exists, or at least it did, until October 7th. And really to see the place destroyed, empty. And here they placed on the tables. I apologize, I want to show you this place. Here they placed on the tables people's seats, and here we can see Arbel Simantov, 5.5 years old, murdered. Carol Simantov, 72 years old, murdered. Holma, age 2.5. And you can see that they put the little chair here for him. The family sat down. The whole family was murdered. The parents, the 3 children, and also the grandmother were murdered. The whole family was murdered together that day. And we can see by the number of tables here with each of these posters, we can see the scale of the tragedy that happened here. 1 in every 4 people from this kibbutz was either murdered or kidnapped on what we call Black Saturday. Saturday was supposed to be Simchat Torah, which is called the Joy of the Torah. It's a Jewish biblical holiday where people gather, sing, and dance. I remember that on Friday night I was at the synagogue with my little son, with my husband, and we were dancing and singing. And on Saturday morning we woke up to the sirens. I was in Jerusalem. We woke up to the sirens and we woke up to the news of what was happening. So they turned it, the terrorists turned the happiest day of the people of Israel into the biggest massacre since the Holocaust. Exactly. It's no coincidence. They chose this day on purpose to destroy the joy. To strike on a Saturday when the people were resting, when the people were unprepared, when many soldiers had been given time to go home, to spend time with their families. And exactly, they took advantage of the joy of the Israeli people's festivities to carry out this massacre. And no kibbutz suffered as much as Nir-Oz. I wanted to ask you what you think is the most important thing people should know about what happened here on October 7th.
I want people to know what happened here. No one should have to experience it because it's so horrible, so frightening that I think no one in our world should have to go through this kind of horror. And thinking that there are people with no compassion for others is very sad for me.
And do you plan to come back and live here in the kibbutz in the future? Do you want to rebuild the kibbutz and come back here?
Now I feel like this is my home. Until I took my things out of here, I left the tea, clothes, some food. I left everything here because I don't want to go into the empty house. I want to go back, but if I feel safe here, no. When I walk here and stay in my house, I still try to feel the fear. Still fear. And the house is still all messy. I cleaned, but it's not as beautiful as it was. I might come back, but I'm not sure yet.
Every house we arrive at is another family, another story. And when we get here, we can see little pieces of the life they had before. We see the children's toys, the dishes they used to eat from. We can see how they lived, what they wore, and we can also see the cruel details of what Hamas did. They came here with the goal of massacring and causing the maximum amount of suffering for these people and for all of Israel. Unfortunately, they caused a very, very deep wound. And to begin to close that wound, to start the healing process, the first thing they need is for their kidnapped loved ones to come home. And that's why all the time here in Israel, people talk about the kidnapped. They talk about them because we need them back. So that this isn't the end of the story, so that the end of the story is the rebuilding of this place. The people who have lived here since 1955 have faced many difficulties and still do. But despite all that, they tried and managed to build a little piece of paradise here, which was destroyed by those demons, but God willing, it will be rebuilt. I have two requests for you now. The first is that everyone who wants to and can help with the reconstruction of Israel, each in your own way. Whoever wants to can pray for the peace of Israel. Demand that the governments of the world put pressure on Hamas so that the hostages are released. Whoever also wants to make financial contributions to rebuild this and the other kibbutzim here in the area, I will leave links below in the description for those who want, and payment options for those who want to make contributions. And my second request for you is that you look them in the eyes. I'm going to show you now the photos of the people who were killed and the people who were kidnapped from Nir-Oz. And I ask you to watch until the end, because each one of them deserves to have their name and face remembered. Let us pray for a true and lasting peace, and that something like this never happens again anywhere in the world. Let us pray for peace. Thank you so much to everyone who watched and shared, and I'll see you next time.